We thought, all right, Kelce's trying to make a decision. How about a guy who knows about this kind of decision and one that knows Kelce, played with him here in Philadelphia? Todd Herremans joins us right now. Todd, how you doing?
What's up, guys? Hey, first of all, I never had a decision like this. The decision was made for me.
I'm sure for most players it is.
Hey, before we jump into this, Todd, though, I need a good wine pairing for thick-cut bacon. So what you got for me, man?
Thick-cut bacon.
Yeah, I need a nice wine for that.
That's something salty, so you're going to need something a little crisp and refreshing. If I were you, I'd go with maybe a nice, Pinot Grigio with a little thick-cut bacon.
Him and Trey, like these cats have been doing between the vines thing. Yeah. I like you guys are blowing my mind with your knowledge of these wines, man. It's just ridiculous because I know both of you guys. Todd made me retire, and I used to beat Trey like a drum. So it's like to hear you two guys that I used to go at it with all the time talk about wine and know what y'all talk about. Man, it just blows my mind right now.
Yeah, well, life is about growth, Hugh. It's about growth and continuing to grow, right?
Yeah, and you know what? Speaking of that, when you look at the decision that Jason Kelce has to make, how hard do you think that could potentially be for him?
Well, I think it's really tough, to be honest, because the older his kids get, and the more his family develops, I could see that probably tearing at him to not be there for that. But then at the same time, Kelce's this very driven character who I just can't see him retiring if he personally thinks that he can keep playing at a high level. I feel like that would eat him alive more than, not being home during the weekdays for his kids. You know what I mean? I think that would drive him nuts. So I think that he needs to feel like he can make it through an entire season playing at that same level for him to come back, which he's been doing, he's still top of the game. But that's a delicate thing too, because, you also don't want your legacy to start to, roll downhill. So it's a tough decision with a lot of different factors,
Todd, how challenging do you think it is, the mental side of it? Because, we've heard him, and we had some audio recently of him talking about they. He was referencing the Eagles as they, not a we anymore. And I'm probably thinking too much in this, but I'm just starting to wonder, is he starting to remove himself from he's still part of this thing? He still is. I mean, the Eagles would obviously love to have him back, but how much do you think that's probably part of it too, where he's got to be mentally, and physically we know he could still do it, but does he want to line up and do the whole offseason program and all that stuff? Again, the mental part of this decision.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely exhausting. And I think that you could kind of see, toward the end of the year when the camera was catching him at the end of their last game, he looked exhausted. And the thought of trying to do it all over again to get to that point was probably so overwhelming, There was a lot going on there. And I just think that the mental toll, the physical toll, all of the unknowns throughout a season, that's a big gamble to sit there and look at and think, like, do I do it again? Or is this where do I go out on top? Because another thing you got to think of is just all the opportunities he has right now. The Kelces are so hot right now, So I'm sure he's got plenty of lucrative deals to take, off the field. Who knows if those are still around in a year? You would hope that there would be that many and more if everything goes as you would think it would. But you never know what's going to happen, so he's got to take that into account as well.
With Todd, with all things being equal, say if you were in that situation, if you had an opportunity to do television and make the same amount of money that you would make playing football, what decision do you think you would make?
Personally, I'd transition immediately. Because it's a lot easier to just sit there and talk about it than to do it. Mm-hmm. But I also know that, I don't know if that would scratch the itch for Kelce. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's a highly competitive guy. He's a soldier. He's a warrior. He wants to be out there on the front lines, experiencing it. I don't know if he wants to quite sit in the back yet and just talk about it.
Well, that's a big part of this, too, is opportunities. And he has an incredible amount. I mean, met with Amazon, met with CBS, met with all these networks out at the Super Bowl. Todd Herremans joining us on the Midday Show, talking about Jason Kelce and his decision here. Todd, the other part for the Eagles now is they wait to see what he's going to do, is how they build this team. And I'm sure if Jason felt like they could win the Super Bowl next year, that would be another layer of this. Todd, what do you think of the Eagles right now as we head towards the offseason? The morning show today was debating whether or not the Super Bowl window is still open. What do you think about where the Eagles are right now after a disappointing end to the season? Obviously, Kelce's going to factor this in if he thinks they could win big next year. Do you think this Super Bowl window is still open, or are they in a transition period right now?
Well, I think that those things are kind of intangible, or not intangible, but I think those things kind of go hand in hand. Having that, it's rare for those four guys to be there for that long, Lane, Kelce, Fletcher, and BG, and to just have that nucleus of culture, the culture that you want to have. It's probably a scary thing for the franchise to try to move on from all that at once and also stay in the hunt for a Super Bowl. So, I think that probably also plays into the decision of wanting to have him come back, is to have a constant for the culture in the locker room that's been there forever to weather the coordinator transition. I'm high on the Eagles right now. I think they made some great moves that, it's going to be different than it was last year, that's for sure. And, if it's successful, it's going to be exactly what the Eagles fans want to see. So I think that they've been making good moves this offseason. There's still a lot of questions in the air. The fact whether Kelce comes back or not, I think he's almost impossible to replace on the field and in the locker room. But, I think that they have very talented guys that that will be able to fill in. And then, put Cam in there at center. The luxury they have right now is all three of those middle guys know football so well. They can play center. They can call out defenses. They can make adjustments. So we're not really, I don't think that they're really concerned about that right now. So I think that, whether Kelce comes back or not, they'll be set on the offensive line.
Todd Herremans joining us here. Todd, while we have you, a couple thoughts on the Super Bowl out of you from Sunday night. Mahomes does it again. Todd, what did you think about Kyle Shanahan's decision in overtime? It's been debated a lot the last couple days to take the football first. So both teams guaranteed a possession. Niners get it. Field goal. Mahomes goes down and win it. Did you think the Niners made a mistake there?
By not going for a touchdown?
Well, or by not deferring, because if you defer, then you're kind of in charge, right? Like if the Chiefs get 7 or 8, and you know what you need to get if you get the ball second.
Yeah, it's tough. I think the idea was to just go down there and put it in right away, and have it be done. I just don't think that that's a tough situation. I've never been have to do that. I don't know what the right call is there. I know that. In the heat of the moment, he probably thought that they were just going to, have a dominant drive and win the game. Didn't happen. And you see, I don't know what the right move is, though.
Todd, Mahomes now 3 Super Bowls. You played in an era with Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, the best quarterbacks. How would you assess how great Mahomes is? And to you, is he on or has he surpassed Brady's level?
He's definitely a special player. He's proved that he can win. He can win it all. He can do it with different players on the field. I think it's awesome that we don't have to go through a lull where we don't see a great quarterback on the field. It's like we didn't have to go through a transition where there's not a great Hall of Fame quarterback playing. From Tom to Pat. So now, I think he's up on that level. He has the opportunity with his age and stuff to surpass Tom, I think. Who knows what's going to happen in the future, but it's a lot of fun to watch right now. That's for sure.
Yeah, it is. He is the best right now. All right, the show Between the Vines with Trey and Todd, we could check it out on YouTube. We will be doing that. Todd, we appreciate you hopping on. Enjoy the off season here, and we'll be watching those videos when they pop up. Thank you, Todd.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate you.
Former Eagle Todd Herremans there talking about the decision for Kelce. So, Huey, he laid it out. He would move on to media right now. He'd be out.
Because it's like the biggest thing that you would probably have to transition is just the day-to-day grind of being in the studio and trying to be creative. But he could do that. He's probably forgotten more football than the folks on those panels know. So it would be a hard transition.
Yeah, the first time it hit me that he's really ready, or like he thinks he might be ready, is when he went and spent his bye week. Was it Chicago? They were in Chicago, Amazon. However, the Bears were playing someone on. The game probably stunk. But he went on the Eagles bye week this year, Jason Kelce, and he shadowed the Amazon crew for a Thursday night football game. You're not doing that for no reason. It's like if you take an internship somewhere, you're doing it because you want to be there.
I mean, it's an easy transition.
Yeah.
You look at some of the guys that have done television and are doing television, and you're like, man, I can do that. And he can definitely do it. You know, I mean, when I was doing it, it was fun to do, but it's one of those things where you just have to be prepared for what happens after that. But he'll be fine. He'll definitely be fine. He ain't got to worry about putting his hands on none of his coworkers and nothing like that. He'll be great.